I think, we had this idea to do an update from Israel, and we really feel like most of you are watching the news. There's not necessarily news that we have, but we really, and I think Shmuel's going to talk a little bit about, some of the things that we've been helping with and some of the challenges that they've been facing. But honestly, what we really are looking for is questions from you guys. So if there's something that you've either seen on the news and you don't understand it, or something that you're not seeing on the news that you have a question about, feel free to type those into the chat. And then when Shmuel is done, we'll kind of go through those questions and answer them, hopefully in an orderly manner. I'm not sure exactly how many people are going to show up. Right now we're sitting at 50. Hopefully some more will keep joining us. So it might get a little chaotic if everybody's talking, but if we can do chat into the chat box, questions, then we'll be able to go through those and answer them. So Shmuel, you want to take it away from there?
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm good.
You are good. And I'm going to mute anybody that's not muted.
Perfect. Great. So, hi, I see a lot of familiar faces in here. It's great to be here. And as Kim said, we thought that we need to have an opportunity to speak an open conversation and a Q&A, if you can say, from a perspective of an Israeli. And I'll tell you this, it's the first time we're doing this live Zoom. And I did one to Australia, but it was a couple of days after the war started. So it was basically me sharing it was the beginning, a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts, very, very, very premature, I would say, even the understanding we had. And today during dinner, I asked my son, he's 10 years old, told him I'm having a Zoom today with a lot of friends from all over the world. What would you talk about if you need to describe what's happening to us during this war? Yes, I presented this question to my 10 years old kid. So his answer, I think, is going to be a great starting point. And he answered, are you asking what happens to me or what happens to us as a nation? I think there's two different elements us Israeli experience at this moment. And I think both of them are two sides of a coin, which is not clear yet where we need to focus our mind to. In one hand, on a personal level, it's not easy. And we're waking up in the morning and, as we do, the first thing we do in the morning is open our devices, and it's like the lottery. You open it and you see who are the soldiers that died last night, and you hope and you pray that, who knows, maybe they're going to be close to you. Maybe it's a member of your family. Maybe it's a friend. Now, every person, every soldier who dies is a huge loss. But the personal feeling, obviously, of knowing somebody that just died is a stronger feeling you're going to have. And the morning starts with this. And my son asked me today, so how many soldiers died today? So, today we know of 4, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And it piles up into more and more soldiers that die on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis. And only a couple of days we have this pile that makes sense. I'll give you an example. A school in Jerusalem, Emil Tharp, lost 5 kids from one class. From the beginning of the war until now, 5 kids from the same class got killed during the war. Another component that we could take into consideration is the fact that you can see somebody who you hear on the news, it just passed away, and then you understand he is the cousin or a nephew or an uncle of somebody else that died, that was killed. And all those links are connections to people that you know. He's the son of, he's the uncle of, he's the teacher of. It all connects to this thread of people that are close to you, because that's the first thing I want to say. This war is personal. It's personal because the numbers are so big. You don't have any Israeli who did not lost somebody on a personal level. You don't have people from a community in Israel that can say, "Oh, it didn't arrive to us. Oh, we're out of the scope." Literally every community, every city in Israel, from the north to the south, was hurt somehow. Somebody from the community, somebody, a student, a soldier, somebody was kidnapped, somebody died in the party. It's so personal. It connects all the people of Israel on a level that is more than spiritual. I'm talking about somebody you know. And as I shared in the past, and as I'm sharing today, and it's going to be brought up in a project or one of our papers that are going to be released soon in Nachala. I'm talking about a friend from this community, my community of Tzufim, and one of my best friends of this place who lost his daughter in the party. It's a person that we're good friends. We sit together every weekend for 2 hours. We learn together biblical studies, and we learn together during the morning time, exactly the time when she was at that party in the south, in Saturday morning. And after a week, we didn't know what happened to her. He revealed the next Friday night that she was murdered. So on a personal note, as my son say, it's a difficult time where you don't sleep well, you don't wake up well, and basically you walk during the day as a zombie. It's scary, and you don't know where it's going to come from next. But on a national perspective, our nation woke up. We were surprised. It was taken by surprise. We were taken by surprise. But from that moment, something changed in our minds. I mean, all of us, people who support Israel and work in that field of supporting Israel, we knew who is the enemy. We knew we are working with, and we knew who is going to go against us. But to see all of Israel waking up that day to the situation, to understand, to see with our eyes so much bad and evil and darkness, it made people realize we are in a war. It's not a question of a settlement. It's not people that went to live next to Arabs as we are being blamed. It's not soldiers. It's not people that did something. We are talking about innocent people, civilians who went to party, to dance, lived their life quietly in the kibbutz, never thought anything like it is going to happen. And from that moment, when we woke up at that morning, understanding what happened to us, it was a state of an emergency, and all of Israel woke up. The soldier, more than 350,000 reserve soldiers are there for more than 60 days. Friends, I want to say something. People sometimes don't realize, because in America, for example, if you're a soldier, you're being deployed to Iraq for 9 months. So what is 2 months? Two main differences that you need to consider. Number one, you don't volunteer to go to the army in Israel. It's mandatory. Every person in Israel needs to be a soldier. And you don't sign for the rest of your life for that. You did your 3 years, you went back home, you did whatever you did in your civilian life, and then when you get a call, you need to move away. All the businesses, all the work, you're a doctor, you're an IT-tech, you're a teacher, everything of that needs to move away, and now you're going for 2 months. We did not volunteer for that, but we had to do it because this is the time of war. And I can tell you that on a personal note, I went to visit my friends up north, and you have people that have their wives, they are 9 months pregnant. And I asked them, are you not expecting to go home? She's expecting. He says, when it's going to start, she's going to call me. It's going to take me a couple of hours, and I'm going to go down to the birth. I hope I'm going to make it. Last week, and I videotaped this, and I actually published this week. I went to a circumcision of a friend of mine who got this phone call, had a baby, and on the circumcision, he goes there, and half of the people are with uniforms, holding their rifles, going back to the army. I went to visit this friend 2 days after the baby got circumcised, and he was ready to go back to Gaza again, leaving his wife, leaving his 1 week old baby, and other 5 kids, and go to fight in Gaza. I saw an amazing video yesterday. I saw a person who was a commander in the tanks in Gaza who missed the circumcision of his son. And over the phone, on a Zoom talk, he made the blessing before the rabbi did the circumcision. And from distance from Gaza, he was able to participate in Nisan celebration. So what I'm answering basically is what my son said. On a personal note, scary, fearful, questions, and on a national perspective, this is time that we see the Jewish people and the people of Israel waking up like they never did before. It was the hardest lesson, and we paid the hardest price for this lesson, but we saw people waking up and realizing who we are dealing with. And more than that, somebody wrote this on the chat, and I agree 100%. Somebody wrote a spiritual war. The day after this war, Israel is going to wake up to realization that the vast majority of the people think differently than what they thought before. The 7th of October was the day that people understood who are we dealing with, and understanding it's not about us settling here or there. It's about us living the promise of God and bringing us to this place, to this place on the planet. And the chant from the river to the sea is a simple chant that says, all Jews need to go out of Israel. This place is going to be without Jews. And even people that were on the left, and people thought that we need to give back Judea and Samaria, they're standing now and they understand it's not a question of Judea and Samaria, it's a question about Tel Aviv. It's a question about the coast. It's a question about the kibbutzim. People that literally were friends with the people of Gaza were attacked only because they were Jews, only because they lived in this place. And every place on the planet, wherever you are from, anti-Semitism is on the rise. Because Jews around the world understand now more than ever, it's not a battle of a couple of Israelis who went to live on a dangerous spot on a hill. It's a question about our very existence in this land, in this country, in this area, in the planet. So this is a very dramatic time. And this is a time of a lot of reflection. And people from all over the world took this opportunity to say, we are with you. And I want to finish this first introduction before I'm giving it for question to say this. The amount of support and love we received from our supporters and Christian friends of Israeli communities. Okay, I'm here for 6 years, so Kim, you maybe say I'm wrong. But what I witnessed here was nothing less but amazing. Phone calls and emails and questions and support and donations and how can we help and what can we do and what can we do? This is the time that people exposed their love to Israel. And I can tell you that this week I received an email from somebody from Australia. Joe, you know him. He's from the Brisbane area. And he writes to me and he says, I want to tell you, Shmuel, we did something very small. It's a minor gesture. You see, he's downplaying it. We wrote a letter to the Jewish Federation of the area from 50 churches, how we show support to Israel. and we put a flag of Israel in our church. And he says that to make me feel that, oh, it's nothing. It's something small we did. We just sent a letter. And I told him something, and I wrote to him something that I'm telling you here now. And that's the most important thing I want you to remember from this part of the talk. A person that stands with Israel at this time, it's not something small. Why isn't it something small? Because this person is on the verge of being targeted as against all Arabs. And when you are putting yourself, putting your words, putting your actions with the people of Israel, you can be targeted as well. And I'm telling you, many people are silent at this time. It's scary to say and it's sad to say, but many people are hiding away and don't want to show their support because they don't want to know they're supporting Israel. And what would people say? And how would people react? So I told this pastor in Brisbane, no, the fact that you are raising a flag of Israel and you're writing your name on a letter and you say, I support Israel, it's huge. It's massive. And I can tell you that we feel that. The people of Israel feel the support, the love, the blessing, and everything that's come from all over the world. We felt all the time, and I said it many times, we felt isolated. And the demonstrations all over the world and anti-Semitism doesn't help us feel better when we see people marching on every major city demonstrating against Israel. But when we hear about groups, about churches, about individuals who support Israel, we know there are still some amazing people out there that loves us and support us. And as we celebrate Hanukkah in 2 days, and I'm going to go to this in the end, I just want to say this. In Hanukkah, we'll learn how much one light shooes away a lot of darkness. And that's something I want you to stop and reflect how every person on this Zoom, every support, every letter, every appreciation Israel has at this time is a light that moves away a lot of darkness. That was my introduction. And now, please, any question? That was a long introduction. I see people are laughing. I'm sorry. I got carried away.
Shmuel, why don't you just share a small like a small victory? Like what is something tangible that Christians have responded to that we've made a difference in the communities? Because I know Shmuel's been calling me and he's been inundated with calls from desperate people looking for desperate things. So address that a little bit and then we'll go to the questions.
Imagine this. You are an Israeli living in a settlement, in a community, we like to call it, but it's a settlement. You don't have a border where you live. You live here in this community surrounded by hostile villages. The story of the people who live in Judea and Samaria, if you've ever visited, you saw with your eyes how close we are to the Arab hostile communities. So you wake up October 7th and you saw what happened in Gaza. That's what you're gonna have in mind. They invested there $3 billion to build the most advanced fence in the world. They had hundreds of soldiers around them, and look what happened. What will happen when our neighbors are going to go against us? What will happen the day they will decide we're taking our cars, we're taking our weapon, we're taking our knives, and we're going to enter the Jewish communities of Judea and Samaria, and we will do exactly what happened in Gaza. From October 8th, only because October 7th was the Sabbath and they knew I wouldn't answer their call, I'm getting bombarded with phone calls, messages from every community in Judea and Samaria, shouting at me. How can you help? What CFOIC can do for us? We are not prepared. We are not ready. What will happen when they're going to come against us? You understand? The hysterical situation that we saw people slaughtered in the South only made us realize how we are the next target. And we understood three things at that moment. Number one, when the day will come, it's going to be much easier for them. Number two, when we will need the army and the soldiers, just like what happened down south, they won't be there. Not because they're hiding, not because, I don't know, the machinery didn't work, because they would be busy and occupied doing something else. And number three, if there's one lesson we learned, is that a community that was prepared from a civilian perspective was able to help itself and to survive. All the communities that had enough gear, weapons, cameras, drones, equipment, gear, they could help themselves. They could fight back. We are not afraid to fight back. Every person here was a soldier, still in reserve. Oh, that's something else. Do you realize now we're talking about more than 80% of the men left our communities to protect the nation in the army? So you have a community not prepared with gear, only 20% capacity of men. This is a serious situation, friends. So from that moment, as Kim mentioned, I got phone calls and I got requests, and we were already being able to help a lot of communities. We helped to buy drones for many communities. We were helping with cameras. We helped with a better communication devices to connect between the people who are in the first response team. We were able to help with generators, something that I didn't even thought about. What happens when electricity goes down? At least they have something to protect the essential places in the communities. I'm talking about a list this long that always being updated as we go. The needs is much more than what we have. We are fundraising, we are asking for support, and people are very generous with their giving. They understand we are in the next stop. And with the situation being so close, not being ready, and all our guys are away, it could be a very dangerous situation. We need to be ready, guard, and geared for this event. Thank God we were able to help a lot. We continue to help, and we'll do much more. And I want to finish with this. Kim says, how did we help? As time passed and we were able to help different communities, we understood something, and that's there's another way to help the communities. Actually, a small gesture that's going to help the people, the troops that are on the battlefield. We need to strengthen the families. A family, a mother with 3, 4, 5, 6 kids is by herself for 6 weeks, for 7 weeks, for 2 months. That's a serious situation. And we thought of how we can help and how we can support that. I'm happy to say that starting this weekend, the first community of Chavat Yair is going to receive a personal family Shabbat box. A family that wanted and is going to stay for Shabbat with the husband or without the husband, because he's going to be in Miluim, in reserve, is going to receive the Shabbat meal on the box. It's small, but think about the fact that the family does not need to cook for the weekend. They're going to sit together, they're going to be happy, they're going to rejoice, and they're going to be in a situation they know somebody far away hugged them, literally gave them this hug, this emotional power. We are with you, we support you, we love you, we care for you. So that's the beginning of so many things we need to do, we will do, and we are doing.
Fantastic. And that's all thanks to our donors. So we are trying to give hugs and security and support everywhere that we can. And you guys have been responded amazingly. So the need is great, but our God is greater. First question is, can you comment on what seems to be the US interference in Israel's war? In fact, it's easy to feel they are no friend of Israel at all and is always half-hearted anyway. The UN stance seems to be even more treacherous.
Don't start me talking about the UN. I'm not going to answer anything about them. They need to be flushed in the toilet of history. I'm not going to say a word about the UN. Nothing but nonsense altogether. Scratch that. Let's talk about the US. So I just want to say about the US. The US, as always, has interests. They have interests in the Middle East. They have interests all over the world. They're in a situation with, just name a few, the war in the Ukraine and Russia. They have the situation in China that's ready to be light up. They have Iran there orchestrating all the madness happens here. And they have their tax paying people in the US that are debating how much the gas is going to increase if America is going to go on another war. From the beginning, America was supportive and said, we will support Israel. They brought these big ships. I don't know how to say them. I always forget how to say, but the carrier, the missile carriers, the how do you call them?
I think the aircraft carriers or the battleships.
Everybody knows them. It's like a massive, I don't know how you call it, but it's the greatest thing that ever was produced by man, I think. And you see them, and this is show of power. And I think America there says something bigger. They said Israel is a friend. And I don't know where it's going to take us, and will they really act if needed. But even bringing the power here and showing their missiles, but their muscles, I want to say, is pointing out to the people around. As President Biden said many times, don't. Hezbollah, don't. Yemen, you heard about the Yemen throwing missiles from there, don't. And I think, and that's the main point I want to finish with. I don't care, and I don't want to care about what the interests of the Americans is, but we had an interest that was very important. If what happened in the South would expand in one day to the North, and we had to fight both in Gaza and in Lebanon on the same day, it wouldn't be an easy task for the Israeli force. Right now, we gained a lot of time by the showing of power of the US. And when the US brought their ships here, it made Nasrallah and Hezbollah in the north think, should we act? We know. Until now, they did not act. Here and there, small missiles, but they didn't do what we were afraid they're going to do, what we expected them to do. And I think we need to thank that. We need to know that it would be a very difficult situation for Israel if it would be an attack from the north as well. So to answer this is America has interests. I don't know they're the best friends or the best allies, and I don't know what's going to happen if we will be attacked. But in the beginning, when we had questions, when we had doubts, they came here, they talked, and they came to our side. Now, from that moment, there's a lot of pressure. From that moment, we know that every act we're trying to do, we need to consult with them, we need to ask them. It's not always easy. But in reality, until this moment, 2 months after the beginning of this war, we are able to fight. We continue to fight. And today was one of the hardest days of bombing from Israel. So I don't know how they manage it, but we still are able to take this pressure and yet continue to fight and continue to do what we think it needs to be done. It comes with a price. It comes with a price that I don't know what will it be. And I know there's a lot of pressure. And sometimes you see, we don't do exactly what we want to do. But looking at the greater scheme of things, I think we need to thank America for supporting us. and we need to hope that they will continue and that they will remember we are the only allies in the Middle East that they can trust. And I hope it's going to continue like
that. Is the settler violence that Biden talks about something fabricated?
Most frustrating story of all time. Friends, I live here, okay? And I read the news all the time. I'll go back for a second. We know for a fact that there are organizations sponsored by the EU that their only purpose is to find those violent acts of the settlers. Imagine that there is a system that is looking and searching for things that we do. In the report that they was released a couple of weeks ago, they add this big, massive headlines talking about 92 places that were abandoned because of violence of the settlers. When Israelis checked the list, they found out that 90 of them was never established to be a place that they lived. They didn't abandon because they never lived there. They are bringing together violence, even if it was an army, an IDF soldier that had to fight against resistance. There was a demonstration not far from here, a bit far, in Khawara, next to Rechelim. They went on a demonstration, the Palestinians. They began to stone the road, and IDF soldiers had to shoot in the air. They didn't stop, so we had to shoot to the knees, and one person was injured and died. It was released as settlers' violence. The mix between settlers, IDF, stopping them from provoking and attacking, or stopping them from attacking, got mixed all together. I can conclude and tell you this: nonsense. From the beginning of these 2 months, there were 3 incidents that we know of. One was this soldier, one was another soldier that happened in Gush Etzion, and one was a family that went next to Shiloh to work the land or just walk around the community. They were attacked. They had to be stopped. There was a show of violence. They had to stop it. So somebody shot, and yes, somebody died. To call it an organized violence by the settlers is nothing but a lie. But it makes sense. They want to show that just like what we're doing in Gaza, we're fighting them. Oh, same happens in Judea and Samaria with the settlers. Or more than that, they want to try to compare what the massacre Hamas did in Gaza with what we do in Judea and Samaria. Don't fall for this fake news. Any comparison, any attempt to compare, to consider, to think there's something organized by us as violent is nothing but fake news and lies. More so, deep down, there's an understanding here and a notion that needs to be explained now. Open your ears, because it's so insane. The war, the attack, with so many casualties, everybody needs to search for someone to blame. Obviously, we were blindsided. The army, the intelligence, all those things are a big question mark. Where were they? They failed. Full stop. Sorry to say that. On October 7th, our government, our army, our intelligence wasn't there. They failed in protecting us, civilians of Israel. But the atmosphere in the communities or in Israel is the fact that we need to blame more people. It's very easy to try to blame the settlers of what happened. How is it so? They go back and they look for incidents that, because of incidents happened in Judea and Samaria, more soldiers had to be sent here, referring to the fact that maybe there were less soldiers around the Gaza Strip where they really had to be. Leave aside the fact that we have terror attack all the time and there were alerts, things happening here. The fact that soldiers came here to protect, because the IDF understood we can be under fire before October 7th. Now it's being explained as because of violence of the settlers, you had to bring troops here. You see where it goes? They're trying to blame us to be part of the massacre. They want to put us in a trial for what happened because there weren't enough troops down south. It all goes in circles to trying to blame us, to put us as the bad guys, and to understand because we don't have an international support of our existence here in Judea and Samaria, it's an easy scapegoat that says, let's blame them. They're violent like the Hamas. Because of them, there weren't enough troops, and they are making a lot of problems in the area, and they're going to make the next pogrom come because the way they act. If you ever came to Israel, if you know us, if you saw our content, you know nonsense, fake news, nothing to compare with reality and what they're claiming. I hope you know that. And I hope the sources you're using for news is clear, that it's really, there's nothing there. It's nothing there. Sorry. Yeah.
But an easier question here. Are we friends with Sarel, the IDF volunteer organization, and or Hayovel, and have they seen an increase of volunteers coming to Israel, or has it been difficult getting people into the country?
First of all, Sarel, I can tell you, they're being around for years. When I was a soldier, I remember Sarel people came to volunteer in our base folding uniforms. We salute Sarel. The concept is great. People volunteering in the army, absolutely. Ayovel, good friends, amazing friends, neighbors. I was privileged to go to the party to welcome the Cowboys. I'm sure all of you saw the Cowboys. Raise your hand if you didn't see a cowboy around. You see no hands in the air. And look, I told Tommy Waller, my friend, I told him, Tommy, you brought hundreds, thousands, I don't know how many volunteers. You bring 5 with a hat. Look at the change you made. Just wear a hat. You know how much media, how much coverage it brought, how much support, how much love. And I can tell you, I went to him. So I was invited to a party. I have a friend, a Jewish friend from Israel, and he has a farm in Montana. He heard that one of them is from Montana, maybe 2 of the Cowboys from Montana. He said, I need to do a celebration and invite them to my home. So we went. It was a Saturday night. It was a small party, a small gathering. And I asked my friend, I don't understand. Hundreds of volunteers come all the time. We love them. They're doing great. What made the difference with those Cowboys? Why everybody went ballistic that Cowboys support us? So, he said to me, living in Israel, you know that in our culture, when we used to be kids and watch TV, those Cowboys were the good guys. And when we saw those Cowboys coming, we said to ourselves, maybe a lot are against us and there's protests against us and demonstration. At least the good guys are on our side. So we love Ayovel and we love Sarel. And about coming to Israel, absolutely. El Al, thank God we have a national carrier that still continues to fly. I actually traveled during the war to the US to give some talks. I see my friend Joanne here. Hi. I saw her a couple of weeks ago in Florida when I came, and I'm expected to travel again to Australia to meet some friends and some kangaroos. as expected, to talk about the war so people can come and people can go. And if you want to come, you come to Israel, it's a possibility. Now, Kim told me that she might organize something to help you do that, but if she wants to talk about it, it's her. I don't know all the details.
We are working on getting pricing and putting together a volunteer solidarity mission trip to Israel in late January, I think. We need to give so if you're interested, it'll be a very, very small group, and it will not be touring. Israel's not really a tourist destination at the moment, so this will be a definitely a different kind of trip. But if we get enough people to sign up, we'll do it. We're planning on it. So keep be watching for that. We'll be sending out information on it probably in the next couple of weeks as soon as we get it priced out and everything. So definitely that, or be in touch with me. We can do that.
And I want to add something. Before a question, at this Zoom, and I didn't say it before because there's so many people, so I had to go right. We have at least two that I see, members of our staff in Israel. And I think, and I told them if they're still awake, maybe they have problems to fall asleep. I told them, if you are awake, please come on this Zoom and give us your perspective as an Israeli. So I want to present to you two people, Maya and Sarah. Sarah, the manager of the office, the boss of everything, she's in charge of everything. She needs to give birth in a couple of weeks, days, I don't know. She will tell us. And she's been experiencing 2 months in an advanced pregnancy without her husband. So Sarah, if you can unmute yourself and for a couple of minutes, share with us the feeling you have living here with all the situation, with war around, your husband is away, sometimes he's in Gaza. Please, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm definitely happy to share because it's really important for the world to understand what we are going through as a nation and how Shmuel mentioned minimum 300,000 families have been completely, their lives uprooted and changed since their husbands, or and some women as well, have gone off to fight in all parts of the country. And a lot of us in the communities I live in, Karnei Shimron, majority of the men are not around to be. It's been a quite frightening experience, but a learning experience as well. What I feel now is not what I felt from the beginning weeks. The beginning weeks were beyond terrifying. I would check my doors and windows and my kids about 8 times before I went to sleep. The first 2 weeks that my husband was gone and located on the Gaza border, I put my kids in my room with me to sleep out of the pure terrifying thoughts of infiltration into my home, the reliving the images. That was just the general fear, but we're forgetting I still am a mother. I have 2 little kids at home, a pregnancy to keep safe, a full-time job. I'm a person myself who need to function. And all of these processing and catching up the news and even seeing what's going on only happened the second my little kids went to sleep every night. I needed to function for them first, to be normal, to protect them mentally and emotionally and spiritually before I could, and of course physically, but to protect them and then to allow it to sink in. It was very heavy. It still is, but we learned to learn with the situation. It's been difficult. But I gotta say, on the other hand, there's no one like the Jewish nation, and the Jewish nation here has really stepped up to help support. We have a lot of help from the community to help with meals and babysitting. Something breaks in the house that maybe your husband would usually fix for you, and he's not around right now. People coming left and right, offering donations, bringing toys for the kids. I think the kids didn't even realize there was so much going on because they're so little. They're only 3 and 6 years old. They knew something's going on, that dad's not around right now, that he's being a soldier right now. But they were like, why is everyone giving us so many presents? Like, they were loving it. They didn't really understand where all this attention was coming from. My older one a bit more, but there's something special about the culture that the children here in Israel grow up with. It's raw, it's real, they know it. My 6-year-old, we haven't experienced the siren in Karnei Shimron, thank God, this entire war, but we did experience a few with a rocket falling right next to us, maybe less than a quarter of a mile falling from Carnation Road 2-3 years ago in our last operation with Gaza. My daughter was 3.5 then, and my son was only 6 months old, so he didn't know. And she still remembers. So when she learned about sirens again this time coming up, you could see that trauma just triggering in her eyes of there's going to be a siren and oh no. And the point is it's a lot of baggage, but we've learned to grow from it and to move forward. And no matter how difficult it has been to have my husband away in Gaza, out of Gaza, that heartbreaking text you get, I'm going in for a few days, for a few hours, you don't know what's going to be. There's no bigger merit in the world to be a part of the same army that King David was and to have to take part in the redemption. We really believe that this is the next step in the redemption of really being able to feel that all the Jews are here in Israel together. So it's been a lot, it's been heavy, but it, in the end of the day, is a big merit to be a part of this nation.
Wow, Sarah, amazing words. Well said. I cannot even imagine to be in your situation. No, we are here. Now we salute and really to see and I saw and I imagining that your husband is away in Gaza and you're with 2 kids and you're pregnant and you still had to carry and you need to come and smile and play with the kids in the afternoon. And sometimes I make you crazy with requests and questions. So thank you, Sarah, for that. We really salute you. And I think what you mentioned was very crucial. The understanding that at least the people around you try to make you feel that you're not alone. And every person around the community is trying to help. Some people give money, some people make a soup. Maybe give us an example of simple things that people do around you to support.
A big example. I have a neighbor who about once or twice a week, they don't even tell me they're making me dinner in a head. It's not for the kids, it's for me. I can make my kids some macaroni and cheese and a grilled cheese and some pizza and the easy stuff. It's for me because I don't get to take care of me. I'm so busy taking care of them that I know that soup's coming and I don't have to worry about it. And it's really helpful. But something I didn't mention that I can't believe it wasn't the first thing I mentioned. The international support is something I depend on so highly. It's so important to be an American Israeli Jew sitting in Israel, in the Sharon, in Samaria, knowing that we have this huge support system all around the world from Jews, non-Jews, as Shmuel was saying, and Kim was saying there are many ways that CFOIC donors are working together to help support people like me in my situation. I have letters all over my refrigerator from people from around the world. They don't know me, but they come in the care packages that say, we're thinking about you. We're praying for your husband. We're praying for your kids. We're thinking, it's so beyond, it's not just nice, it's needed to know. And for me to know that there are people back at home who are not afraid to drive to Target. Well, I miss so much. I stay home in America, so if there's anyone here from other places, excuse me. But, to drive to Target or to their local Walmart or wherever they may be going, and they have an Israeli bumper sticker that you're not afraid to show your support because you are standing on the right side of history. It's a really big deal because I can also say on the negative side, these past 8-9 weeks, I have seen so many acquaintances that I'm on social media with just from the years, from the day I moved to Israel for the past 10 years I'm here, people who I thought would always be the first person to post about the massacre that happened here, and they are not on my side, our side. And it's terrifyingly eye-opening. And so our international support from Jews and non-Jews is so beyond crucial. So it's really appreciative of us.
I'm going to jump in here real quick, and then Sarah might answer this a little better, only because it's kind of an American question, and then Maya probably has something to say, and Shmuel, you as well. It says, I feel because of the Gaza pullout influenced by Bush and Iran's funding by Obama that the U.S. is partially, maybe even completely responsible for the October 7th attacks. With that being said, do we see a significant migration of American Jewish votes from Democrat to Republican after the attacks? And I'll just say, I don't know how much Shmuel knows about American politics with Democrats and Republicans, but I don't necessarily know that we're going to see that happen. I definitely feel that the pullout from Gush Katif, the destruction of the 20 Jewish communities in Gush Katif, definitely, if we hadn't have done that, October 7th would have never happened, because the IDF would have been there, the Jewish communities would have been there, and we just would have been there. We would have had the intel, and it just wouldn't, Hamas would have never been in power. So it was only after the destruction. So that's my personal take on it. The other thing that I would say about this, that I would say for Shmuel or you guys to do, and that is, what about Jewish immigration, Jewish aliyah to Israel?
I want to say that, and that's something that I started with, and I think the 7th of October again, it's not another day. It's Israelis 9/11. You know, that's the impression people said, but it's more than that. The Jewish world woke up this day and saw, by definition, a massacre that we only saw in the Holocaust. And I hate talking about the Holocaust. I don't think I ever talked on the Holocaust in CFOIC, because there's the Holocaust and there's everything else. But that day, the 7th of October, people woke up to the feeling, oh, it's Holocaust all over again. And the demonstration that happened in the US on Washington, D.C., when 250,000, when maybe 300,000 Jewish people, and many Christians as well, came and demonstrate together, Republicans, Democrats, Reform, Orthodox, Jews like to have those different groups and sects. But in that day, American Jewry understood something that is stronger and wider than, it's not a question about Israel. It's a question about anti-Semitism, about our existence as Jews in the world. I said that before. And I think everything that's going to happen from now on in the American politics is going to be regarded as, what is your approach to what happened there? How are you combating this? The universities is a great example of how Jewish people, their narrative is connected so much with education, with universities. And what we saw there in the Ivy League universities was a spit in the face of everything we thought that was in our side. And people saw how the liberal that went into this progressive movement and the woke movement, and I'm going to say it very, very quiet, a lot of the time it was with Jews on the leadership, and it went all ballistic in, and we thought that you saw with your eyes another Holocaust, another massacre. Now you're going to go against Hamas. Now you will support Israel. Many did not wake up that day. Many did. And the people woke up that they understood that they cannot sit on the borderlands anymore. They cannot sit on the fence, and they need to say something. And it's all the movement. It's from the reforms, from the liberals as well. And I really recommend, just, you should go and watch some of the liberal rabbis talking right now. It's amazing to hear. They woke up. They really woke up to understand what's happening. And I think it's going to be a huge increase in the movement in the USC Jewry. Will they come to Israel or not? What stopped them until now? You think a bit more of anti-Semitism is going to wake them up? I am not sure. I always hope, only come to Israel for the right reason. Okay, like Sarah, like Maya, don't come because you're being chased away. But things are going to change for sure for the American Jewry.
But if I can add on to that, just to answer, I moved to Israel during our last war. During Operation Protective Edge was the year that I had made Aliyah, that I had moved to Israel. I was coming anyways, and the war so happened to have happened right before. But there is an increase in the Jewish spirit, in the Jewish soul that says, why am I not home? Yes, I might have an important place outside of Israel, especially for community leaders, pulpit rabbis, etc. But for the average day Jew who has a burning fire for Israel but is waiting for their chance, unfortunately, such tragedies as such really lights that fire for us and says, what am I doing here? I need to be there. How do they move forward with that? That's individually based, but it definitely lights the fire for us.
I would love to hear a couple of words from Maya. Maya has been sitting here. Maya, I would love to hear your approach, maybe on what happens. How do you feel being in Israel at this time? How is your family newly immigrated? How is your kids? How is your husband accepting this situation? And maybe you can also elaborate about what you hear from your community members, friends in Seattle. Right now, they're there, you're here. What's their approach and what do they think?
Okay. First of all, I've been here now for 7 years, and I just want to go just a little bit talking about the anti-Semitism in colleges. And one of the reasons that I made Aliyah was because I saw, I mean, there were many, many reasons. But one of them was really because I saw what was happening already 7 years ago, 8 years ago in America and on college campuses. And I was like, I don't want my children anywhere near that. And so I went from living in Seattle, Pacific Northwest, which is extremely progressive, to living in Samaria. And I have friends from all over the US, but specifically from Seattle, who the second everything started happening are, how are you? Are you okay? People who haven't spoken to in decades are reaching out to me and saying and checking out on a regular basis to see how I'm doing. And the truth of it is we're fine because on the one hand, we're not in the South, we're not in the North. But at the same time, if you listen, if you watched, and I'm sure many of you have watched the news, what we're seeing is that if you listen to the language of our enemy, we are all settlers. They consider our entire country settlers. So I feel kind of almost like vindicated, like finally now everybody understands. Like I know I have the right to be here. I have the biblical right to be here. I am, reclaiming, a promise and a prophecy. But now, not only does the rest of Israel understand this, but the rest of the world is starting to understand that it's not really about, as Shmuel said, about this specific place. My children are all taking this in different ways. I have some older kids. My oldest is 23 and she's already finished college and she's working. She's living near Tel Aviv. And so I've had the, I guess, wonderful, comforting thing to do as a mother, as when she was driving home from work and there was a siren and I had to, and she's like, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, you have to stop. She goes, well, not everybody's stopping. And I had to walk her through this. And as she's, putting her head between her, just crouching down on the ground. And I'm like, it's okay. I have to calm you down. And she's spent many, many days going to the bomb shelter or the stairwell. When there are a lot more sirens there than here. Here, as Sarah said, there are really no sirens. And on the other hand, on October 7th, which was, as you know, a holiday, my second daughter, who was doing her national service at a hospital in Jerusalem, was called in. Now, when you have a religious girl, do national service, you don't expect them to be called in. Called in is an army thing. She chose to do something not military, and all of a sudden they're like, "You have to come in right now." And it was really scary because there were, first of all, no cars. I asked some rabbis, I'm like, "Can I drive her?" And they said, well, you can't really drive her because you are, they may not even let you get into Jerusalem. Who knows what the situation is right now. And it turns out that she got a ride from somebody and that car broke down and the army had to come in to say, hey, come stay in our Jeep while this guy's car is getting, the engine is cooling off. And eventually 4 hours later, it's an hour drive from here to Jerusalem, but 4 hours later she made it to Jerusalem, and she was there doing her volunteer work, and just hearing her experiences was a whole different story. But I also want to speak about my husband does not speak a whole lot of Hebrew, and he obviously did not serve in the army, and he wanted to do something, so he figured I can drive. So once a week, he goes to Jerusalem and he asks people, do you need a package delivered? Do you need somebody picked up? Do you need somebody? He picks up, we have these little booklets that talk about the Torah portion for the week that come into our synagogue every Friday, but like nobody was driving to Jerusalem. So now he's responsible for hundreds of people learning, Torah on Shabbat, because when he was away for a few weeks, he went to visit his mother. Nobody was driving these, bringing those over from Jerusalem. So he's like, well, I'm not doing anything, but he is. He's everybody wants to do something. And the last thing I want to say is really about the feeling of our people coming together. Not, somebody asked about pointing fingers, and Carol said this, and isn't it really time to look at people? And I feel like everybody is working really, really hard to say no. Yes, we know there were screw ups. Yes, we know that possibly intentional. We don't really know, negligent for sure, but we're pushing that all aside, because as Jews, we know that God's protection of us is lower when we are not united. And when we are united, there is nothing that can defeat us. And so it is really, really important. We have to work really hard to say, yes, oh, I'm really mad about this, but no, I'm not going to deal with that, because it is really essential for our survival and for our protection, that we focus on the love for one another and our unity as a nation. And so that's what we're working on. That's what we're focusing on, and feeling the love from outside of Israel is just, it could be overwhelming, because you don't expect it. We know that there are Christians who love us, but when you see it, when you feel it, it really warms our heart, and it really strengthens us to keep on going, knowing that there is a biblical plan here in motion, and everything really feels like has that kind of a significance. So thank you.
Two last questions
Maya.
here.
Yeah, I just want to thank Maya for a point we didn't say enough. Unity. What we saw in Israel is sheer unity. Every person, just Maya said, every person wants to do something. And I'm talking about literally every person, every background, every story. How can I do? How can I help? What can I do? What can I contribute in my small space? So unity, and everybody's in it together. I think that was spot on. Thank you. Yes, Kim.
So, kind of a twofold thing. Are Israelis in Israel aware that Israel has been projected from being almost unmentioned, at least in Australian news, to being the main news item every single day? So are they just aware of how much news this is generating? That's number one. And then number two, do you want to say a final word about Israel's future? Where do we go from here?
About being in the news, I used to live in Hong Kong, and there's a famous Chinese saying, may you have a boring day, which means that sometimes, we wish just a little bit not to be on the news. We're okay. We don't need the war. We don't need bad things happening. Only good news. So yeah, we're in the news. Thank you, Australia, for mentioning this. I hope that now people hear what's happening to us. I can tell you that Australia is surprisingly, there's a lot of things, anti-Semitism there, a lot of pro-Palestinian voices. I am surprised. So things happening in Australia, and I'm going to come and check in February personally. Joy, usually to smile because I'm coming. A word for the future of Israel. I think it's simple to say. One of the greatest things that happened in this war, if greatness and this war can go together, is that we saw a miracle happening. From the beginning of the war, it was during Simchat Torah, when we start to read the portion of the week from the beginning. So it started with Genesis. And every person, if he read the portion of the week, he saw the connection, right? In the beginning, there was darkness in Genesis, and then there was Noah's Ark and the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, and actually mentioned the word Hamas over and over again. And then on the next portion, it was about Abraham releasing his nephew from being an hostage. So as the weekly portions developed, we saw that there's like a thread here in the story, and how God has said so many times at this conversation, as pointing us and saying hi from the weekly portion. Oh, Isaac here, there was a fight with Esau. Ishmael and Isaac are fight, like everything is connected there. And now we're entering the weekly portion of Vayeshev, when we're going to read the setting of Joseph. And of course, it's connected to Hanukkah as well. And the one thing I want to take from the weekly portion in Hanukkah is this. In Hanukkah, as the story says, is that our culture was jeopardized. Nobody wanted to kill us. You know, the Jewish holidays is based on somebody wanted to kill us, they didn't, let's eat. Hanukkah, don't laugh, that's true. Hanukkah is not the same. We don't eat on Hanukkah. Sorry to say, but there's no festive meals in Hanukkah. Why? Because nobody was gunning our physical bodies, our nation. It was a war about our culture. The Greeks came to us and said something very simple, which makes sense. We don't want to kill you, but you need to be, you understand now we are the culture around us. We're strong. We have all the power. You should adapt to the culture that is surrounding you. Then it was the Greeks. Now it's the Western society. People are looking for Jewish. Somebody writes latkes, but it's not a meal. Just one thing. It's not a meal. The culture war that made us fight for our existence throughout the generations is the hardest war. Because when people are gunning a gun for you, like this time, either to fight, to hide, or to run away. When they're coming quietly, gently, and taking your soul and your culture, and they want to try to change who you are, our Jewishness, our culture, this is a war that needs to be standing strongest. And we know the end of the story. All the vessels of oil were broken, and there was only one small vessel of oil. For kids, it's like, okay, there's a miracle, there's oil. Okay, do we need to do an holiday for oil? I think it represents something stronger than that. And that's the fact that even in the darkest time, we still have this vessel of power and energy and soul and spirituality that can shine. And in the situation that we are here now, there's a lot of darkness. And people are feeling down. It's not easy. But we know we have this power inside of us. We have this small vessel of oil kept strong. It's not going to change. And that's the power of our spirituality, our belief of God that's going to shine. It's going to be there for the rest of time. Make no mistake, we will fight. And it's connected exactly to Joseph. Joseph was this person in exile. He was sold away and he was adopted to the Egyptians' culture very fast. He could be one of them, but he fought for his spiritual life. In jail, inside out, being the advisor of the king, he always says God's name in him. It's not me, it's God. It's not my advice, it's God. I didn't solve your dream, it's God. That's what we need to have in mind right now. Yes, we are on the war fighting. We are now on the border. Our soldiers are there. Our families need to fight. But we understand this is a fight for our existence, for our culture. And we're saying always, it's God. It's not us. We're fighting only in his name to really try to show victory. And I'm going to emphasize this again. The amount of love and support that we receive from you really is enabling us to keep on going. We are saving life because right now nobody cares about the small communities of Judea and Samaria because there's so much things going on south and north. They call me, they call you, and they ask for your help because they understand if it's not us, as a big question mark, when will this help come? And I'm telling you, I'm being bombarded with phone calls and requests on a regular basis. And I'm so happy to tell them, you know what? With the help of Christian Friends of Israeli Communities, with your support, we are being able to help more and more communities in their needs. That God forbid, when it's going to come against us, it's not going to happen like it happened down south. We will be ready. We will be prepared. We will be geared. And as always, it's God. We're fighting in his name and in his power. Thank you so much for coming today. I hope we'll do it again.
Amen.
And just thank you.
I'm gonna end with a quick prayer, Shmuel. Abba, Father, we just thank you for that you hold Israel in the palm of your hand, that you who watch over Israel never slumber nor sleep. And this did not take you by surprise. This did not catch you unawares. But Father, that you would send your angels to protect each and every IDF soldier that is going in to eradicate evil. That you are bringing them home safe, that we are bringing home every single hostage safely, that we are going to see the eradication of evil in the midst of Israel. Lord God, that there is going to be a unity within the nation and the people of Israel like never before, that they are going to put their trust in you, and that they are going to see miracles such as we're seeing in Hanukkah, and that we are going to just see that the world would know that the evil that has been brought forth, like it's been exposed, that it would not be able to be blinded or covered up any longer, that media and people that are speaking lies and defamation against Israel, that we just cast those down and we call those things to null and void. It says every curse that is without cause shall not alight. And we just speak every word that is spoken against Israel, that it will fall to the ground harmless. And that which is truth will rise up and be broadcast from east to west to north to south, that it will be broadcast throughout the heavens, and people will not be able to say that they do not know the truth regarding Israel and the Bible and the God of Israel. And we thank you for especially protecting and bringing home safe Sarah's husband and Maya's children, everybody that we know personally that is serving on the front lines, God, that they are just wrapped in your protection. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
Happy Hanukkah. Only good news. And when we pray, we need to remember that we still have a lot of hostages down there. And we need to pray for their
Yes.
safety and their quick coming back, not with more terrorists out, only with the power of God and the power of their helpers, the IDF, shooting them, killing them, and stopping all the terrorists of the Hamas. Thank you so much, my friends.